Hello everyone. Listen, guys, welcome. It seems like a long time since I've done one of these standalone YouTube videos. Listen, guys, the situation in Ukraine, it's moving forward, and I genuinely don't know why this is not getting any media attention like it should. If you live in the United Kingdom, the war in Ukraine, it is going to drag you into it, guys, and it's going to affect each and every person in the United Kingdom. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be. What I am saying is I don't see this as a win for NATO minus the United States. I've been doing a lot of live streams about this, and I've been answering questions on the live stream. The live streams have just been getting chaos at the moment. So I want to start doing standalone videos again where I can get the points over to you guys and show you guys the footsteps towards this global conflict of an industrial scale. Now, I'm going to lead with this article from the BBC. Putin rejects Western security in Ukraine, warning troops would be a target. Now, this comes as, what's his name? French guy. Well, we've plenty of French guys. Macron. Macron's saying that Western troops, 26 nations, would be ready to deploy by land, sea, or air. As soon as the fighting stops. But look, there's so many impasses here in this conflict. They're like every time somebody says something, you think like, yeah, what you're saying is an actual impasse because it's got no meaning. So what they're saying is, and this comes from what John Healey was saying, who's the British Defence Minister. So John Healey was saying, yes, British troops would be there to enforce a ceasefire. Now, look, I don't know what that actually means. How do you enforce a ceasefire? Contextualize it. So you've got the Russian side, the NATO side, they're having their ceasefire, then they start shooting. Like, how are you going to enforce that? What are you going to do? Say, stop shooting or we'll start shooting. Like, how do you, it doesn't make any sense. You can't enforce a ceasefire. You either have a ceasefire or you don't. Now, all these security guarantees and the security directions, this is all on the proviso that there is a ceasefire. Now, all Vladimir Putin has to do is say, right, okay, well, there's not going to be a ceasefire. If Western troops are going to be deployed, if there's a ceasefire, there's not going to be a ceasefire. So you can see now both directions that there's just so many impasses. And I've said this so many times going back from, in fact, look, guys, go back through my videos, literally scroll through the videos. Way back in October when people were saying, as soon as Donald Trump was saying, people from America were saying, lots of mainstream media commentators who claim to be experts, they were all saying, oh, as soon as Donald Trump gets elected, he's gonna have peace, and there's gonna be peace in the Middle East. We'll come on to that on another video. There's gonna be peace in Ukraine. He's gonna with one phone call, he's gonna stop the war in Ukraine. And I was saying, like, not a chance, impossible. It's never gonna happen. Guess what? I was right. Now, the reason for this is you've got to understand first of all, the ground. The ground doesn't facilitate a ceasefire on either side. Right now, where the fighting is in Ukraine, it's mostly open fields. Now, you can't just draw a line in open fields and say, that's the border. We're not going to come any further forwards. You don't come any further. It just doesn't work like that, guys. And first of all, why should they? Why should the Ukrainians do that? But the ground is dictating this. So even if both sides wanted to have a ceasefire, they couldn't because there's no line there. There's no physical boundary. A good example of this going massively wrong is the Durand, how is it called? The Durand line, the Durand border. I think it's called the Durand line. Basically, it's the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. That was basically built because British. There was British forces stationed on that border. I think it was the Russians, actually. A Russian consultant went up and said, right, what's the range of those British weapon systems? And they said, right, we'll draw the line just outside the range of those British weapon systems. Terrible idea, guys. You need something physical on the ground. And I've said all along, that physicality is the River Dnipro. And at a very minimum, there's going to be no meaningful talks about a ceasefire in Ukraine until, well, two options actually. The first option would be that the Russians agree to leave Ukraine and rebuild everything that they've destroyed. I don't know how likely you think that is. The other option would be for the Russians to make it up to the River Dnipro, in line with the city of Dnipro. Now that brings huge logistical questions in itself, but until that happens, I don't see anything, guys. I really don't see anything. So Vladimir Putin's come out yesterday, I believe it was. He's rejected any Western security agreement in Ukraine. This also comes off the back as well, actually, of I can't remember who it was, and I have to agree with him. I can't remember who it was. One of the Russian commentators, and he said that David Lammy is the English idiot. That's not me saying it, guys. That's David. That's a Russian saying it. Now, when you look at this and you look at the people we're sending out there to negotiate peace talks and to negotiate, we're sending David Lammy to negotiate essentially with Sergei Lavrov. I feel sorry for David Lammy and his team because, look, guys, say what you want. You've got to understand that the people that, look, you know, the first prime minister that Vladimir Putin shook hands with was Tony Blair. He's been in power that long, and he's had that long to, you know, to put his people in place, to find those people he trusts. Here in the United Kingdom, we look in the West, we look in that 4 year democratic voting bloc. And it's very difficult, you know, it's very difficult to come up against these things because, ultimately, the Russians or Vladimir Putin, they just have to wait 4 years and then they're going to get another change in tin, another set of policies, another set of politicians, and then they can have a conversation with them. So right now, guys, the war in Ukraine, it's going forwards at a rapid pace. I genuinely don't know why. This is not hitting the mainstream, hitting the headlines. It is on the mainstream, but you do have to find for it. Also, Vladimir Putin he's invited Vladimir Zelensky to Moscow for peace talks. Again, this is just exactly what I said would happen. Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Let's review the paperwork. Let's do it another time. Oh, come to Moscow. We're really busy. We can't leave Moscow. And then that doesn't work out. And then Vladimir Putin will say, oh, we wanted to do peace talks, but you turned us down. It's us that we want to do the peace talks, but Zelensky won't meet us. Guys, look, be under no illusion. While all this is happening, the Ukrainians are losing more and more ground every day. They are. That's the reality. The Russians have built their military-industrial complex now to the size where they're producing on a phenomenal level now, guys. The Russians are the Shahed drones in particular. The Russians are able to produce Shahed drones now in phenomenal numbers, and those phenomenal numbers are just absolutely overwhelming air defenses. Because unlike Afghanistan, unlike Iraq, what you have here in this battlefield is a huge front line. On one side, you're safe if you're on that side. On the other side, you're safe if you're that, so you can operate freely in your own countries. So like I've always said, this conflict that we're heading towards, it's going to be a global conflict on an industrial scale. And right now, guys, for reasons I've gone through in previous videos, I am not seeing a W. I'm not seeing a W for NATO minus the United States. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. You guys have been fantastic. I am going to start doing more standalone videos like this. Like I said, on the live streams are great. The chat goes wild on YouTube. So I'm literally like being a bouncer on YouTube, having to mute people and calm people down, while I'm dealing with the TikTok chat as well, because we triple stream obviously, and it is getting a bit of a task now. So I'm going to start doing these standalone videos, guys, just so I don't miss getting that information out to you guys. Anyway, I will see you guys later. And what did I used to say? I'm going to max a grid. I'll get you another video later.